Welcome back, guys. It is once again that time to head off to our next race in Austria. We are just off the heels of a rather disappointing result in France, so hopefully we can bounce back and turn it around as we head to the Red Bull Ring in Austria. So let's take a peek at our messages, get some info. We've got a team goal of scoring 2 drivers' championship points. I can totally speak. Red Bull Ring is a much simpler circuit, only 9 real corners in there. No development failures this week, thank God. So we are making further progress. But we are in for a soaking wet race, something we've only had a little bit of experience with, not an actual wet race. We've had some wet practices and the like, but not a wet race yet. But that is going to be heavy rain for the entire duration. So we'll take a peek through. We just look to maybe have jumped past the Toro Rossos, but as I said, everything succeeds. Our next stages are really going to be all major upgrades, so we're going to kind of plateau for a little bit, it looks like. And yeah, we've just barely edged past the Toro Rossos. I don't expect that to stick, as they've been plateaued for a while, and we are also going to be plateaued for likely the next 2 weeks. But with the wet race incoming, we are not going to be as reliant on our engine power throughout it. It's going to be more of a traction deal, so we throw on a couple of the borderline more used components to not waste any of our newer, fresher components. We're going to take a new practice gearbox since that one is pretty worn out. No penalties for that. We are not at this stage going to take a new gearbox because that would be a 5-place grid penalty, and we are trying to avoid that for this particular event. Well, let's go ahead and jump to qualifying.
Thank you for joining us once again for today's qualifying session. Sit back, relax, and enjoy what we hope will be a fantastic contest for pole position. I want to talk briefly about the strategy in these qualifying sessions. Anthony Davidson, how can a driver adjust their approach to gain those critical extra tenths of a second?
Well, qualifying isn't about adjusting your approach necessarily. It's more about trying to repeat a low fuel run that you've practiced prior to this session. You're looking for perfection on the lap, and that's hard to achieve if you're trying something new. There are some variables that can stand in your way, however. Track position or unexpected yellow flags, for example. Coupled with ever-changing track conditions, it's important to be out there at the right moment. But as a driver, you have to try and ignore these distractions and just keep your mind focused on that one perfect lap.
Alright, so let's hop out for our quick little circuit tour on our very first flying lap. Head down the main straight and up the hill into the braking zone for turn 1. A nice mid-speed right-hander, and we're back on the power down this next long straight that's got a few little winds. They call this breezy left-hander turn 2, but it's not really a turn. They're into a very, very deep braking zone for this hairpin of turn 3, a big action zone in the race. Down the next DRS zone, there are 3 DRS zones on this track, back to back to back, corner by corner by corner, until you get ready to head into the tail end of Sector 2. Yeah, Sector 2, which is these nice wide corners, good mid-high speed corners. Really feel the downforce of the car as you're coming through those, through the Sector 2 split. And as we head down the last bit of a straight, no DRS in this straight here, but we're into the final 2 corners. As I said, only 9 corners around this track, a pretty simple setup, a lot of long straights. One of my more favorite tracks, though. It's definitely a fun one to drive. But so we drop in and hop out for our 3rd lap of the qualifying session. We have fallen down to P8 after a decent number of people have set their flying laps in. We are up about 1 to 2 tenths at this point here, but get a little bit of a worse exit than our last time, so we're basically holding just flat. Remember, Q1, we only have to go P15 or better to get into the next session. But we go a little wide there, and we basically improve by a half a tenth. So we go up to P6. And at the end of Q1, we are P7, so we are going to advance to the next qualifying session. And so here we are, lap 1 of Q2. Track temperatures have come down as some of the cloudiness has rolled in. We are way wide through there, but luckily don't pick up an off-track penalty. And we pop through to end our flying lap, which is really our best flying lap of the session. We go P7 once again, so we seem to be holding pretty decent pace with where we're at. And so we actually advance into Q3 to try and put ourselves in the best starting position possible. Now, it doesn't matter which tires we used in Q2, just because we are going to be a wet race, so we aren't going to be bound by that start on your Q2 tire rule. So here we go. Only our first flying lap through there. Not as good of an exit as we had hoped through those corners. We got some scolding from Jeff throughout our qualifying sessions for revving up the gearbox.
Keep it up.
But that was our best one.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Bottas, Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
All right, and so there we go, the end of qualifying. We'll be starting from P8, so 4th row on the grid, not bad. Just taking a peek to see just how worn out some of our pieces are, and it's going to be a little concerning, but we're going to go ahead and start on them so we don't take any penalties.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg, and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship, except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's a short lap here in Spielberg with just 10 corners, 7 rights and 3 lefts, making up the total distance of 2.6 miles. And expect to see a lot of cars running wide today, especially through the last corner, as the wet conditions make the cars skittish through the downhill sections. Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix. Now, I want to ask you about Lewis Hamilton. They come into this race with a healthy championship lead. I don't want to say the title race is over, but surely it's going to take something special or catastrophic to change the outcome at this point.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves, Crofty. Yes, it looks like a big lead, but all it takes is a locked brake into turn 1, a sticky wheel nut in the pit stop, and that could all get turned on its head. You can never discount one more sting in the tail.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly, Oldtimer, Perez, Sainz, Raikkonen and Max Verstappen, Grosjean, Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel and Magnussen, Stroll, Albon, George Russell and Devon Butler. Norris and Lucas Weber completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Right, let's be patient going into turn 1. We want to be in a good position for the rest of the race. Good luck.
Well, it looks like thanks to a couple of penalties, we have moved a couple slots up on the grid up into P6. We are almost starting the race inside the top 5. So hopefully this will put us on track for a very good finish. So we're going to hop into the car setup. Obviously the strategy is going to be run the wets as long as they feel good and then switch to some more wets. And then we are going to do some tweaks to our setup as we had it set up for the dry. We're going to add some front wing. Obviously take out differential locking so that way we're not spinning the tires up so much. That's things that we're allowed to do under the Parc Fermé rules. And of course we'll adjust our brake bias as well to be a little bit more balanced. So here we are on the grid, 5 red lights up. And they hold us a while, but lights out and away we go, and everybody kind of slowly creeps off the line as the tires struggle for grip on this wet surface. Perez gets a little biased, but we lunge down the inside, or a little bit elbows out to get him off the edge.
It's causing your gearbox to take increased wear.
And literally after the first corner, Jeff is complaining about the gearbox and increased wear. But here we are right behind Pierre Gasly and Nico Hülkenberg as they run side by side. I certainly felt that we had the pace to potentially get by one of them, but there just really was no room to go anywhere. As you can see, we're just in the spray. We can barely see what's ahead of us. So that's one thing you'll see throughout this race, is you'll see more of those third-person TV camera views, as you just see a lot of spray throughout this race. But we're a little deep, and back end kicks out on us throughout that corner as we're still kind of feeling it out, and Perez gets down the inside of us. We kind of seeded that position as we're still getting a feel for how the car is going to react in the wet, and there's a lot of standing water earlier in the race. Obviously, as these full wet tires are going to clear some of the track off clear some of the water off of the line, we'll get a little bit of extra grip, but early on it's very, very tentative on the throttle. But we're sitting at P7 right now as we make our way running up to start lap 2 just behind Perez. I have a pretty good feeling that we might be able to catch up to him, but we also have McLaren and a Haas right behind us. We're just going to push ahead and see what we can do about this as we're into our heavy braking zone on the hairpin. Try and be very gentle on the power. Try and not spin the tires up. We're still keeping pace right there behind Perez, so we're not losing contact with the group ahead of us, as has happened so many times. And he is running right up on the Renault in front of him. So we may have a shot if he starts battling to catch up and make some progress in this race. There we go, a little bit more slidey nonsense through that zone. It was very tough to kind of get on the throttle. You're coming down the hill, you're losing a little bit of that rear end grip. And we lose some ground and fall back into the clutches of the McLaren of Carlos Sainz behind us once again. But Valtteri Bottas seems to be leading this race and is setting fast laps out ahead of us. He turned in a 120, we were a 122.5, so we're dropped about 2 seconds a lap to the fastest cars in the grid, which, considering we are the lowest engineered car on the grid, I don't feel too bad about that, especially in the wet. But there's Perez and Nico Hülkenberg battling it out in front of us, so our wishes are kind of coming true. As they fight, we're going to get a chance to pull up on them, but they need to kind of sort it out, because like early in the first and second laps, as they're going side by side, we just really don't have anywhere to go to make a move. So we're kind of late on the brakes. We end up going a little wide through that corner, but no harm, no foul. Nico Hülkenberg slots back in ahead of Perez, and you see the warning sign come up of a rear wing issue, likely a DRS failure, but that doesn't matter because DRS is switched off in wet weather conditions, just not safe. We already have potential gearbox issues coming. We have the rear wing having a problem. We go a little bit slidey, very, very slidey through that section, and that is really going to let the cars behind us, Carlos Sainz and Romain Grosjean, catch up as we cross the front line. We are 3 wide into turn 1, and we try and get on the brakes a little later. We go a little wide, but we just have to try and steer clear of the mess. We are not going to fit 3 cars wide through that corner, and they were already going 2 wide, so I did not want to be a part of that. But we survived it, and we also managed to pull back ahead. So all's fair in love and war. Nothing too terrible going on. We did lose a little bit of ground to the battle of Perez and Hülkenberg in front of us.
On the ICE, be aware that we will start to see a loss of power.
Oh, great. And the ICE is starting to wear out.
Clear.
And we've got yellow flags behind us, so what is the cause of that? Is there a car stopped? Oh, Alex Albon, our rival, out of the session. unfortunately. It's going to be easy points for us against him there, but man, it's a shame to see him go out. Definitely wanted to continue to battle with him. So we are pulling through to complete yet another lap of this soaking wet course. About 5 laps in. This 36 lap.
Accumulating some wear on the MGUK. To manage this, we'll need to lower our ERS deployment mode.
Okay, cool. Broken wing. Worn out engine, MGUK wear warning. So we're going to jump ahead to lap 9.
We're reaching a danger point with the wear on the MGUH. Overheating the engine will exacerbate the issue, so keep the temps under control.
And more bad news from Jeff, the MGUH wearing out. Another little hop ahead. It's been pretty quiet for this section. Some people are starting to
We're
pit.
seeing a loss of power from the
Really? Jeff,
turbocharger
come
now.
on.
Loss of power on the turbo.
And now the turbos. So, of our internal engine components, we have problems with the ICE power down, the MGU K and H, so both of our energy recovery systems are wearing, and now our turbo is going as we are spinning the tires like crazy with the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel in front of us and going by us. And we have a little bit of a tap in a moment on his back end, but no damage to our wing, thankfully, and we are now unable to see darn near anything as we come down the straight, covered in spray.
Gap to teammate behind is 11.7 seconds.
But him being in the Ferrari in a faster car, he will likely just kind of streak away with us as we've fallen down to P9. Not our best run so far. We're really hoping to be a little further upfield, but pit strategies seem to be widely varied. I believe that these top runners, like Vettel and such, are going to be running a 2-stop strategy since they came in so very early. So it really just comes to keep running the race that we can and hope for the best. We roll through the tail end of Sector 2. We're starting to kind of figure out how to manage this series of corners. It's real important to get to the apex on that second left-hander before you hit that right-hander. Otherwise, you end up all over the curbs where there's not nearly as much traction on that right-hander and you're very slow on the exit. Really, in the wet like this, it's important to kind of nail every corner, and as the race went on,
Looking at some imminent gearbox issues. Watch out for jams and missed gears.
and the hits just keep coming. So now we've got issues with our engine systems already, and now we're about to see some gearbox problems. So we're going to go ahead and jump to lap 18, and I don't know if you caught it on the downshift, but you'll certainly see it on the upshift. We have temporarily lost 4th gear, which we use to pretty much cruise through all these corners. So now we're a gear up through these slow corners, and of course upshifting and downshifting are a problem. We're luckily, the current F1 with the hybrid systems generate more torque than the old high revving engines, so we are not losing as much by having to early shift, but we're going to dive into the pits. It's about that time for our pit stop, and hopefully over the course of the stop we might get that gear back, because that does happen where the gear kind of returns to us. But dive in, we're really the only ones doing it on this particular lap. Wets to wets, we are not getting any lighter rain, and the track is not really getting any drier. You see our teammate heading out just ahead of us, so we've dropped behind him, but we'll go ahead and race with George Russell and see if we can't get by him and show that we are the better racer in the same car. Down into the hairpin, as you see, accidentally shifted into neutral, because even though we got 4th gear back, we've now lost 2nd gear. So as I was expecting just the number of click downshifts to get to 1st gear, skipping 2nd gear made it overshoot. And you see, yep, skip 2nd into 1st, back up to 3rd, where you have to be more careful on the throttle to spin up the tires. But we're going to go ahead and jump ahead to lap 21. Luckily, we got our second gear back, but as you can see now, wow, why are we going through that corner in sixth? Now the gearbox is jammed, so it's very slow to react to our shift inputs. As you can see, the extremely high revs before shifting up and not being able to get down into the gears we want for our slower corners. So now you have to kind of play the game of hitting the paddle way before you expect the shift to be necessary, so that it kind of shifts before you can, but you're really only able to go one gear at a time. So a lot of these corners where we're, shifting down like the hairpin from 8th all the way down to 2nd and 1st, clicking through 7 gears, we're going to be having to take that corner at like 5th, because at best we'll be able to get down 3 gears throughout the corner. And again, corners that we were taking in 3rd gear, now having to go to 5th and try and time our upshifts to not over rev, which is going to cause even more wear on the engine by revving up that high and create more heat, which is going to cause more issues with our MGU systems. So as we're trying to hold off this group behind us, we are really struggling. But we jumped ahead to lap 23. Our gears have temporarily unjammed themselves, but at a huge cost to our running time. And now Grosjean's going to go ahead and try and look down the inside of us in the braking zone of turn 1, but we brake a little bit later, control the line.
Is down. There's a significant amount of wear on the engine now.
Yeah, Jeff, I know there's wear. You've been telling me this all race. Everything is broken on this car, but we're just trying to limp it home so we can never have to use those parts again.
Okay, the safety car is out. The safety car
catch
is out.
A
We need to form up at a reduced pace.
huge
Keep
break
a close eye on that delta time.
as we
Make sure to keep it
really,
positive.
really spun up the tires, went off track, but the safety car was brought out, so there would be no overtaking under the safety car. So even if those other cars had caught up to me as I was getting on track, they would not be allowed to pass me. And I'm not entirely sure what brought that safety car out. I would have to check after the race to see if there was any other DNFs other than Albon. But we jump a couple of laps ahead to lap 27 as the field has been bunched back up by the safety car. They'll be coming in this lap. And now that's going to be fun, a safety car restart where in dry conditions you step on the throttle and get up to speed, but now we get kind of a poor start as we were about to run into the back of Hulkenberg going slow in front of us right as the car came in and they started accelerating. But there is the green flag, and now everybody turning their engines up, getting up to speed, and trying to make a run through these last 9 laps. Perez dives to the inside of us, but not quite enough. We're a little bit loose on the exit, but we maintain our position just ahead of him, and we're going to try and catch up to these cars in front of us. So we're going to hop 3 laps ahead to lap 30, and Perez once again diving down the inside of us. Got the run on us on the straight there, but into the braking zone of the hairpin. You see the tires lock up a bit as we got out onto the slicker surface of the curb. Not as much grip to keep that car turning, but we go around the outside and we hold position off from him and get a fantastic exit and really open up the gap as we manage to maintain P7 and we start reeling in Nico Hulkenberg in 6th position. The man sitting in the spot that we started. So we're going to go ahead and jump a couple more laps ahead as we just really puttered around behind him, but now we are really starting to reel him in. We are a half second behind, and we have Perez a half second behind us. We have a little bit of wheel spin, but he doesn't get a great exit either, and there we go, right on his tail as we head down the straight. We weave right, then left to try and get around the outside of him. We're late on the brakes, we're holding station around, and he slots right in behind us. But he is still right all over the tail end of us as we come through the end of Sector 2 and into Sector 3, and an area that we have had some troubles with. We've occasionally gone wide and lost traction in, but so far so good. But he is sticking right in our slipstream. Definitely going to get a tow down this next straight. He's going to dive down, try and outbrake us, but we cover him off. We jump ahead, lap 34. We opened up almost a full second of gap. We are back in
You've
P6.
lost access to one of
Cool.
the gears.
We lost
You've one of the
another
gears due to
gear
a fault.
again, this time 5th gear, so as we accelerate down these long straights, we just, well, it's going to be a little slower on the uptake, and we're only two full laps from the end of this race, and we're trying hard to defend this position from Hulkenberg so we can finish where we started, have our best finish of the season, and we are really at a disadvantage down the many long straights that this course handles, as we have to try and stay in front, but we don't really have the jump on the power scenario that we would love to have. So Hulkenberg, I'm sure we were 0.8 at the line where we had this next sector split. He is now 0.7, so he's reeled us in a bit. We've definitely lost some touch with the group in front, but I'll take a best of the rest finish. Being behind the top 3 teams is nothing to be ashamed of, especially in a car that should be at the back of the grid. But it really is just coming down to battling and trying to stay in front while we manage this gear issue one more time. Hulkenberg dives in, takes a little look, but not quite enough. We have some understeer on the exit of the corner, so we go a little bit wide, but we manage to rumble our way over the curbing and the extra bumps. They're designed to slow us down, but we maintain our position. As we are now 2 laps to go, and through the hairpin, as you can see him still kind of holding station there, and the lineup of Perez and a few other cars behind him. So here we are sliding and drifting through that corner as we try and get on the throttle, and the wear of the tires combined with the still damp track is not a great combo for traction and grip at this stage of the race. But our previous best, a P8 at Monaco a few weeks ago. But we're now sitting in position for a P6. Even if he gets by us, a P7 would be good. But with Perez right there, I feel like if we lose that position, we'll immediately be under attack from Perez. But it looks like we've got 5th gear back. Hallelujah, and immediately another rear wing issue. Not sure what it is, probably DRS again. But we start the final lap. We at least have all of our gears functioning, and we're in P6, and we're able to stretch a gap back out to Hulkenberg. If we can be clean through these last few sectors, we should be nice and comfortably finishing in our best finish of the season. And considering our team goal is score 2 championship points, we will definitely reel in more than that with a P6.
This is your final lap of the race. Your brakes are at optimal temperature. Brakes
Super
at
unhelpful,
optimal
Jeff.
temperature.
I sent a radio message to you so I could figure out what the issue is with the rear wing. You tell me it's the last lap, and my brakes are fine. I wasn't asking about the brakes. I had no problems with the brakes at all. We were about a second up at the Sector 1 split. We are still, now we're about 1.4, so we've stretched the gap a little bit. It's just a matter of being clean. Obviously, we've had our ERS turned down to try and save the MGU systems, to not wear them out anymore. Lewis Hamilton crosses the line much closer than I thought we would be to the winning group, but we are coming out of the final corner and crossing the line. Our best finish of the season, P6.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
And Mercedes have pulled off a great victory here today. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, they clearly have a car that comes alive in the kind of conditions we were dealing with today. It's a very balanced package in the wet, and what that means is that the drivers have confidence to attack. And having that confidence gets you on the power earlier, it lets you brake later, and can put you a long way up the road.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it. And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. It's a great result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Sebastian Vettel would definitely be my first choice. He showed up a lot of the drivers out on the track today and didn't show any signs of slowing down.
Let's move on to the constructors. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend from them as they fight their way towards the top. Well, that was certainly an incredible weekend of racing. Be sure to join myself and Ant for more exciting Formula One action soon.
Well, not a bad day at the office. A P6, we were only 14 seconds off of the winner. We were 10 seconds off of P5, but that's not anything surprising. But here we go. We were best of the rest that weekend.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that.
Oh, very happy with the results
Lucas
today.
flew through the pack in that race. What's his
I
secret?
don't care about Lucas, but there's no secret. He does it the old-fashioned way with a lot of hard work and practice.
You're now ahead of your old F2 rival in the championship. That must feel good.
Yes, it always feels good to deliver for the team.
Would you say that your rival is still on your level?
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for him. He really pushed me, up until the DNF.
You're beating all expectations. Would you say we all underestimated you?
A little bit, but the team is more than just each individual parts. It's just really great to have the team work together.
Great. Well, that's everything.
Cool. Thanks, Claire. Bye. Alright, so back into the garage we go to check out our little rivalry breakdown. We have completed our rivalry against Alex Albon. Unfortunate to see that he did not gave him a check mark for finishing the race, but we definitely saw him DNF. And we're leading our rivalry against our teammate, George Russell. But so we have a modest haul of points for that race. Only 415, but we did complete our team goal already. So when that is up next race, we will cash that in for some more points. We got about 1,600 points to work with.
That's a great result. You did really well. I don't think we can have any complaints with that performance.
Looks like one of your rivals has also been invited to a historical event. This could be a good opportunity to play up your rivalry for the press and expand your reputation.
That should be a fun event to do, drive an old Ferrari around Monza. But we'll take a quick peek into our messages. Always, Carl and Jeff want more. I bet you I'll win. They'd say we could get more out of the car. Let's see, what does Lucas got to say? Cut through the fields, and he battled with Norris, nothing about me. Devin Butler, Quimby is ahead of you in the championship. Are you concerned? No, I don't cave under pressure. I thrive on it. Yeah, it'll be a good battle with him in the championship rankings. But let's hop into R&D. We are going to should have enough points to get our first major upgrade, which is going to take 2 weeks to complete. So as I said earlier in the episode, we will be kind of plateauing for a moment with our R&D progress. I'm certain that Toro Rosso will pass us back as we have to sit stationary. So we're just kind of taking a peek and seeing which of the upgrades we can go for. I kind of want to... The two side arrow upgrades are a bit of dead ends. The redesigned brake ducts drag reduction really opens up the next wave of upgrades. A couple minors, a major, and then an ultimate upgrade on the way a little later down. But we're pretty much log jammed this week. That's all we're really going to be able to afford. I checked up the durability, and we just don't have quite enough points. We are 1 point shy from the next durability upgrade, which, considering how everything is just screaming in pain, especially over that last race, would be nice to have a little bit more durability. But, I'll take the penalties where if I end up needing to, I'm really more worried about upgrading the car for overall pace, as we are going to be heading out to Great Britain next. We're closing in on the end of the first half of the season. Hungary is kind of the summer break split, 12 races into the 21 race season, but you can see a lot of wear on that ICE unit, pretty much toast. Everything's kind of yellow and orange. Our energy store seems to be doing okay, and our control electronics seem to be doing okay. But luckily, early in the season, we took those grid penalties to get a bunch of extra parts. So we're going to go ahead and slot some new bits in here and there to see what gives us a combination that runs with. I do want to keep some stuff as fresh as possible. If we can make it on these semi-worn parts to the summer break would be great, because right after the race at Hungary we had to do pure power tracks of Spa and Monza, which are, we're really going to want our best engine components out for that track. We're definitely going to be taking a gearbox penalty again this race. Now, depending on where we qualify, considering that we seem to be qualifying a lot better, since we're not qualifying at the very back of the grid, we won't be taking a whole host of grid penalties. We will likely only take the gearbox 5-place drop in this occasion, because we're really trying to maximize our performance and our results now. We're not really languishing at the back. We're not fighting for last place anymore. So starting from the very back is not where we necessarily want to be. But that is the end of the parts run, as we are going to settle in and get our next wave of R&D started. And we are going to head out to England for our Constructors Home GP at Silverstone next. I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for watching. See you later.